Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Hoyt and welcome to the Concerned Citizen. This is a new talk show for the people of Bennington, I guess the people of Vermont, any concerned citizens. Come on in and let's talk about those concerns. Today I've got two citizens with me, Julia and Justine, right, from Turning Point, and you guys got some concerns, right? What is it?
The opiate problem that's in Bennington
The opioid epidemic.
Yes.
And that's a good one. Again, I think that's probably one of our leading problems, not only for Bennington and Vermont State, but our nation. Some scary stuff. Just to put perspective on this for everybody that doesn't know already, basically we're losing a whole generation of people. It's worse than any pandemic that's ever hit the planet. This isn't Vermont in the United States, it's everywhere. More people are dying now from this than the Black Plague, right? It actually changed the life expectancy of humans, which is incredible to me.
It is.
I mean, world wars, Hitler, right, weren't able to do that. So it's a serious problem. It affects you. I think if you're not an addict yourself, it's your spouse or your daughter or your best friend. We're watching too many of our community neighbors die, and we should do something. So what are your thoughts on everything, girls? What are the problems? How do we solve it? Take it away.
I mean, I believe that a lot of solving the problem is in prevention and treatment. Right now, there aren't a lot of treatment options in Vermont. There's not enough space for people. People are traveling really, really far to get different treatments.
Like on the maintenance programs, for
Right.
instance.
Like Suboxone and methadone.
Right, specifically, and we should note that, right? Methadone is another one.
Right, and there's not
Suboxone.
many. There's like one that's for sure definite in Bennington. Like we need more. We need more clinics for these people to go to.
Right.
We need more treatment centers.
Sure.
Recovery housing is a big one.
Right. I absolutely agree with that, and I want to break this down because a lot of people have no idea really what we're talking about. But Suboxone, for instance, is a great one because I'm pro Suboxone, I'm anti Suboxone. I don't even know where I stand with it anymore.
Right.
It's something that I think is very useful if it's used the right way.
Right.
When people are on Suboxone for 8, 10, 12, 15 years in a
That's
row,
not
I
what it's
don't
meant
agree
for.
with that. It's
Right.
not what it's meant for. So I hear the same thing. What do you guys think of Narcan?
I think that Narcan's a great tool, but it's not the answer to the opiate epidemic. It's saving people's lives in that second that it's reversing the effects of the opioid, but there needs to be treatment that follows that. You know, you can't just get better because you were Narcaned.
Right.
So,
Right. When they like, for instance, they come in for Narcan, we have that opportunity to talk to that individual, and maybe they come back once or twice, but then we have that opportunity to get them into treatment. Because eventually something that we say is going to stick, and then that'll get them into treatment, and they'll want to go. And we provide the ride to get to treatment. Then afterward, it doesn't just happen with them just going to treatment. They need aftercare programs.
Right.
After the aftercare programs, it's continuous. Like,
It's a lifestyle change.
it is.
Right.
It's a complete lifestyle change. You have to change everything about your life.
Right.
The people, phone numbers, Facebook, like everything. You just have to change your whole life when you get clean.
Right. And it's the same thing. I want to be clear, like when we talk, usually everybody jumps right to heroin. That's the thing. The pills are the same compound. It's the same
thing.
chemical compound. It's the same everything.
Whether
in pill
we're
form.
talking about heroin,
Right.
cocaine, any
addiction.
any kind
really.
of addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying too. I can relate to these. I've never done heroin in my life, but I can relate on a whole bunch of different levels. And I think everybody can relate to addiction, whether it's food or work or sex or drugs, alcohol. There's a million different things. This is everybody we're talking about. And I agree with the prevention part, specifically with heroin. One thing that amazes me, and I've talked to a lot of friends and people from the low-level user to the guys that are bringing stuff into our town, right? And they all hate it as much as they love it. Every single one that I've met want help, right? And the stigma really bothers me, because for a lot of these people, just stepping forward and saying, hey, I need help is a scary process for them. Casey and this car thing that we just did, what did you think of Casey?
I mean, I think that I think it went well. I think that it takes more individuals like Casey to come forward and say, you know what, I want change in my community. I want, you know, activities that are sober activities. I want, you know, I want everybody to stick together. What I liked about the car show was the fact that we had the state's attorney there. We had
supporting Casey.
Right. We had
that was amazing to me.
CRJ.
Right.
And I think that's what needs to happen. I think everybody needs to come together instead of saying, oh, we're going to lock you up, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How about if everybody supports each other before the lockup happens?
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think also I think we need to start with like our youth, like because that's where it all starts.
That's the prevention.
The prevention, big prevention part is the youth. Like we need to get more programs and more things for the youth in our town, the kids. Like
there's not much to do.
There's not much for them to do, so they turn to like whatever.
Give them other alternatives. Well, what impressed me about Casey again, not only has he turned his life around. Right, we're talking about Casey Myers, an incredible individual. He had a lot of problems with drugs, and he'll tell you his story, right? How it destroyed his life, almost destroyed his family. But he rose above that to defeat it, and he used cars. That was his passion, which is awesome. But to step forward, to be brave enough to call Erica Marthridge as somebody that was just prosecuted by Erica Marthridge. I mean, that's total bravery is what I think. And I think that, I hope people see Casey as, I mean, my views of him now are, wow. It's not like they were a few years ago when I said, oh my God, Casey Myers, you didn't want to hear the name. Now I'm like, wow. So if Casey can do that, if he can turn his life around, this is possible.
It is possible.
And I love I don't know, I'd like to treat these people as a sick part of society rather than a criminal part of society.
Which they are. When you're doing drugs, you're criminally insane.
Right.
You're not the same person that you are when you're not doing drugs. So if we can eliminate the addictive behaviors and the addiction in the person, then they're, you know, they're community members that have plenty to offer society.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because a lot of people out there I know believe in harsher punishments, right? Tougher restrictions. We can try that. Every time we've done it, it's just gotten worse and worse, right, in my opinion. But for those people, I mean, when you get caught using, when you get a Narcan and you're brought back to life, you basically have possession of heroin in your body.
Right.
But you're not arrested for possession. You're not.
Right.
And again, I like that.
You don't get arrested, but you get a citation.
You get a citation, and then you got to go talk to you guys, and you're right. Hopefully, we're trying to get treatment in there too.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are calling for that. Why aren't they getting arrested? Why aren't they getting these possession charges? What do you guys have to say about any of that?
I mean, I feel like...
should we lock them up?
No.
I don't feel like we should.
I feel like, I mean, we have to be able to give them chances. And that's, I mean, CRJ gives them like, they have that, you know, community service. They have, like, all these other different programs that we can work with them before we just be like, oh, okay, we're locking you up.
Right. Well, and again, I think that's I hate the word junkie. I really do. But that's the stigma. It's just a junkie.
Right.
Until it's your wife.
Right.
Or your child.
Or your child.
Or your grandbaby. Or
which
your sister.
is everybody. This is like a cancer now.
Right.
Everybody's affected. If it's not
well, and
you,
a lot
it's
of people don't even... A lot of people will say, oh, you know, this person is a junkie. Meanwhile, their medicine cabinet is full of medications.
Right.
But because the doctor gave it to them, they feel like, oh, well, my doctor gave this to me. I'm okay. They're really no different than the person that's buying drugs on the street.
Right. Because they're addicted to it.
They're addicted.
Still addicted to that medication.
Right.
Right. And again, every time we've tried to lock them up, it doesn't work. And I think there's two type of users. Okay, there's the guy that fell off the ladder at work, and he went to his doctor and said, I need help, and started with pain management. Next thing you know, he's an addict. And then there's the recreational user, right? Which I'm going to be completely honest with everybody. When I was 18 years old, I was doing just about everything I could get my hands on, right? That's what we, I guess, experiment with when we're young, and that's really the age group that's being affected here. No one says, I want to be an addict when I grow up.
Right.
It's just like these overdoses. I do think they're accidental. I don't think it's not.
Oh, they're not intentional. Some are intentional because they get to a point in their life where everyone has given up on them. They have absolutely no one. There's a disconnect somewhere in their
I
life,
agree with
whether
that,
it's
too.
And
The depression
that's the thing
Right.
with Turning Point. Like, we're all peers. Like, we've all been there.
Right.
Like, I'm a former heroin addict.
Right.
So it's like we've all been in that position, so we can relate to that individual and show them how we did it.
Right.
To get them to move forward in their life and to try to find the barriers that are blocking them to moving forward in their life. Whether it's a little bitty goal, as soon as they accomplish that little bitty goal, makes them want to accomplish so much more. And like for me, helping people
Right.
is what like helped me.
And it's the same with, as bad as addiction is, I think in most cases it's a symptom of a deeper trauma, is what
Right.
I've seen.
And that's
people need to deal with those.
right. And so we were
internal
talking about locking people up.
Right.
So you get locked up, there's no treatment in prison.
Jail.
So you have individuals, most people that suffer from drug abuse were physically abused, sexually abused,
Right.
emotionally abused.
There's some deeper-
They were traumatized somehow in their life. So you're taking a group of people that have already been handed a disadvantage at some point in their life.
Well, a reality to that too is throughout their life, through good and bad, most cases, heroin's always been there for them.
Right.
And this is like us asking them to remove their best friend, right?
Right.
Which is a hard thing to do. This is a conscious decision for people. I don't like locking them up, especially when we're talking like Narcan wise, because I don't want people to be afraid to call.
So
Right.
there is the Good Samaritan law.
Right.
The Good Samaritan law is if somebody's overdosing and you call 911, you can't be charged with a crime.
Right.
And that's to prevent people
I love
from being worried about being prosecuted for calling 911.
I think Senator Dick Sears had a lot to
Yes, he
Yes.
do with that.
Yes.
And
Yep.
hats off to Mr. Sears. That's great.
Yep.
Those are the type of things that we need. I like Portugal. Have you guys seen what they're doing
Yep.
in Portugal?
Yep.
I would love to do that in the United States. I don't know if it'll
I
ever
don't think
happen.
it will happen.
But they treat these people like a sick part of society rather than a criminal part. It cuts down on our overstressed EMS and police and prisons and all these other things. And it's simple that we have the money there.
Right, and
But
instead
rather
of building
than-
more prisons, how about we build more
Exactly.
rehabs? How
And that's
about
what they do. There's a transition where, again, if you're caught dealing heroin, for instance, then you never see daylight again. They're really hard on dealers, but they've decriminalized it, right? So it's not illegal. It's not a crime anymore. If you need heroin, you can go and it's regulated like we regulate alcohol. But now when you're getting it, it's heroin and it's not fentanyl. And when you get it, you get a whole big dose of treatment, prevention, and I'm talking long-term prevention. And we generally, and it's a slow transition, but we shift all the money that we're putting into law enforcement over to treatment and prevention.
Absolutely.
And this is unlike anything we've ever done in the United States. We have no help in the United States compared to what I am talking about. Because right now I think that's the problem. Again, every user I've talked to hates it as much as they love it. We've got about a 3-day window, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, right?
No, that's true. And unfortunately, there are no treatment centers. So when you have someone who wants treatment that day, it's really important that you get them into treatment right away because they
Right.
could change their mind.
They do.
And
There's no bed space available. There's no rehabs available. There's
the quickest that we can get them in is a week.
Right.
And unless they're like, I feel like there's the Howard Center where we can get them in the next day, but that's only a 5-day detox. And when they're up there, while they're up there, sometimes we try to transfer them right from the 5-day detox to Serenity House.
Right. That's an issue.
but-
bed space.
bed
Right,
space
bed
is
space
a
is a
Availability.
big issue, and it's really hard for me to get them into treatment when we don't have enough resources. We
Yeah.
don't have enough inpatient centers
Right.
in Vermont state.
Right. And we should qualify these guys too. Again, they've talked about it a couple times, but they work for Turning Point right here in Main Street in Bennington. And anybody that has any problems can go down there. And it doesn't have to be an addict. Again, another word I don't know if I like or not.
No, we have family
But
members come in.
Family, and absolutely true. As someone who, was in love with an addict, with somebody that is, a family member,
that's touched by addiction in any way.
oh, it's the closer you are to
You
the
can
person,
be a
the
community
harder it
member
is.
and come down and talk to us about what you can do to help.
Or what you want to do to
Or
help.
what you want to do to help,
is.
or if you have questions about warning signs, warning signs for your teenager, warning signs for your partner,
Your child.
your child.
Yeah. You're not alone, that's for sure.
Absolutely not.
And one thing, yeah, again, that bed space, I've seen so many people, they hit this 2 or 3 day window where they're out of drugs and they're out of money, and they want help. Every single one of them that I've met. And I've heard great things about you, Justine, that you're able to find these beds and get people in, which is awesome. But that's a rarity, and even you know, saying it's a week, that's the reality.
It is.
We don't have a week.
Right.
Sometimes, sometimes it's great. Sometimes I can call up there and get them in 2 days. Sometimes I can call and get them in that same day. I try really hard a week. That is like my limit for me, a week.
Right.
But reality is sometimes it may go past a day past that week.
Right.
But most of the time we get them completely in within the first 3 or 4 days.
And again, in my experience with other people, a week is great. It's still unacceptable.
Absolutely.
People die in that week.
They do die
Yes,
in that
they do.
week. That's absolutely absolutely true.
And I think too, when you look at the stigma of addiction, stigma affects everyone. I mean, stigma affects everyone, but addiction really, it's everywhere.
It is. Even if you're the guy that lives up on the mountain, minding your own business, you don't even know anybody or have any friends, guess what? Your taxes, right? The chances of someone breaking in your home, crime rates, everything is affected by this one issue. And again, let's throw some numbers out there. The state of Ohio, I talked with a coroner in Ohio who no longer has enough room for the dead bodies.
Right.
They're sending them to funeral homes because they can't keep up with them. 68% of all of his business, which is all dead people, this is just outside of Cincinnati, are now overdoses. The state of Ohio spends $2.2 million a day. That's about $5 billion a year, just taking care of dead bodies. And I want that to register with people. $5 billion a year. We're not talking about law enforcement or treatment and prevention. This is just taking care of dead people. Disgusting.
It is.
Right?
And those people are somebody's brother.
It's sad.
It
is
is
what
sad.
it is. It's very sad.
It is sad. I agree. I'm almost getting emotional talking about
Yeah.
it. Those are powerful numbers. I hope people are paying attention. And we got to do something because what we're doing isn't working, right? You guys think it's working. It not only doubles every year, it quadruples every year.
Right.
You know, we passed overdose past car deaths 10 years ago, over a decade.
But the thing is prevention is my main, for me, is like, we're getting them out of the places, we're getting them into rehab, and they're going back to the same places because we don't have recovery housing.
There's no recovery housing.
After we get them into treatment, we want them to be in aftercare programs, but if we can change where they were before we sent them into treatment with the recovery housing, things would be so much different.
It would be, because a lot of
It's
these people have
changing
nowhere to go. They
Right.
go right back into the same home or the same,
same
dysfunctional
situation.
lifestyle.
The same drug dealer's couch.
Right.
It is. I agree with you.
And then you've not only lost that, you've lost the resources that you just used to get the person into treatment, but they probably really, really don't want to do it anymore, and they're actually stuck.
They're fighting. They are stuck.
Because I've been up to Serenity House, and we've done like talks and stuff up there with the individuals, and we ask them, we're like, how many times have you
been here?
Have you been here before? And literally most of the room raises their hand.
Well, and again, I'm going to talk to the people who are for corporal punishment and cracking down. This is the main concern. It's not helping. We send them to rehab and they go 20 or 25, 35 times. Like, why are we wasting our money and resources?
Because they're going back to the same situations. We want to prevent that. We want to prevent them from having to go back to rehab. And I feel like the missing piece to this whole puzzle is recovery housing.
Yeah, no, I like that too. And that, again, with Portugal, that's exactly what they do. Instantly, if you're out there and you're listening and you're an opioid addict, you think, oh, Kevin wants to decriminalize heroin. That sounds awesome to you guys, right? It's not as simple as you think. We're going to make you get help when you do this. We're going to help you. We're going to give you heroin to get you through the day. Then we're going to set you up on Suboxone so you're not sick anymore, right? We're going to slowly wean you off it, and we're going to have treatment and prevention and all these programs and groups and activities. This is where our money should go, just instead of law enforcement. And I want to be clear on law enforcement too. If you're a heroin addict and you've reached the point where you're breaking into people's homes or you're robbing people, those are crimes, right? Those we want punishable for sure, right? Not talking about them, but for the most part, most heroin addicts hurt themselves,
Right.
right? This is a self-harm thing. We all self-harm too. That's another thing. And it's I think it's an inside feeling in my experience again, and I don't know from personal use. But I think this is something where they're not happy with themselves. They hate themselves. They deserve this, and it's self-punishment, it's self-harm.
Let's talk about who gets locked up in this state too. For the majority of the people that get locked up and are incarcerated in Vermont, it's the everyday street user. So they're getting charged with possession of heroin because they're selling, 10 bags of heroin to support their habit for that day.
Right.
We're not, when you talk about locking up people, we should be targeting the people that are bringing the drugs in from out of state.
Right.
The people that are making tons of money, not the everyday user
I think
that
that's
needs
our huge
treatment.
mistake right now. What we're trying to do is we're trying to cut off the supply. This is a supply and demand, right? And we've put all our money into the supply. I think we should be concentrating on the demand. I think this prevention and treatment and taking that approach, we're never going to stop the supply.
Right.
People have done drugs since the beginning of time, and guess what? We're going to do them for the end of time. No matter what we do and how illegal we make them and hard the punishments are, people are going to do this. Right? One of the remarkable things with Portugal is literally my first perception of this, they legalized heroin. Oh my God, it's crazy, right? But we allow people to kill themselves and they don't. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of common sense in there, plus with all the other programs and real treatment and prevention, it's not the in thing to do like it is here.
Right. Yeah, and I'm hoping that we shift our focus a little bit, especially because you have a whole new generation coming up that is desensitized. When I was younger, it was like, oh, heroin, that's horrible, you're gonna die. The same things are being said now, but the numbers keep increasing.
Right.
So what really worries me is,
but it's not straight. It's not to get on the heroin, but the heroin is 10 times stronger than it was 15 years ago.
Right.
So that's why we need the Suboxone and the maintenance programs, because it's not like it was years ago.
Well, and that's part of the regulation piece with decriminalizing it. So now you actually know what you're getting, because that's, again, I don't think anybody wants to, most of them don't want to kill themselves.
Right.
It just happens as a side effect. Well, like I said, it's a very, very important issue, and this is open to anybody. I know these guys, I'm hoping these guys aren't the only two concerned citizens about the opioid epidemic. I think it's the biggest thing facing our country. So I'm inviting anybody else to come in and talk about this, share your experiences. There's a million things we can talk about here, but this is a close one for me, and I think a lot of people. How did you guys get involved with this? You said that you were a past user, right?
The person I was with overdosed and died. It's a long story.
Sad story.
Yes, and I found Turning Point, and I started volunteering there, and I became working, and then I got asked to be the administrative assistant, and also I work in the ER with recovery coach. So.
Gotcha. So very personal for you. And how about you, Julia?
I also am in recovery, and I was volunteering at Turning Point, and now I work. I do a number of things there, but we have a new program that's run through the emergency department, and it's recovery coaches. So we both went through formal training to be recovery coaches.
Right. A lot of people think you just go get the recovery coach certificate and you're a recovery coach. Like you go for that 4-day training, you're a recovery coach. You have to have 40 hours of actually coaching individuals before you become a recovery coach.
Well, and to be honest with you, I think the fact that you are recovering addicts is huge, because I've helped a lot of people. I've tried to help a lot of people, and I can't relate as much as I want to, and I think I can, and I got all these ideas. I really have no idea.
Right, and I feel like we do at Turning Point. We understand, because we're all peers, so we all understand. You know, we might not have gone through the exact same thing, but the struggle is all the same.
Absolutely.
It is. And another thing that I've seen remarkable results with is marijuana. Marijuana seems to, it's always captioned this entryway drug. I think it's an exit too. I've used it with other people where they can, I think, the urge to have an addiction, do something to get high, can be covered and again, I'm comparing heroin use, right? I'm taking a heroin addict, and I think that satisfies the addiction need, I think. And again, it's marijuana. I'm not necessarily advocating for marijuana, but I'd much rather have a bunch of potheads wandering around than dead people in the gutter, right?
Well, as recovery coaches, we have to support all paths to recovery, no matter what it is.
What it is, right?
As long as they're in a recovery,
some sort
of some sort, we support that.
Right.
And there's hundreds of different actual recovery programs.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just not NA and AA. Those don't work for some people.
Right.
Not just 12-step programs. There's all, I mean, if you research on the internet, there are tons of
I use the marijuana
programs.
comparison too because a lot of people that I helped were on Suboxone. And again, I'm wishy-washy on Suboxone. Suboxone is just as addictive. It's harder to withdraw from.
Right.
It's abused. It's the same as everything else, right? You don't get any of that with weed. You don't. And I've seen people, and again, you still got to go through detox. Detox sucks no matter what you're doing. But it's tolerable or more tolerable, right? It's being used the same way that we use a methadone or Suboxone. But again, I want to do a comparison, Suboxone and methadone versus marijuana. I don't even think there's a comparison there. I would much rather have people using marijuana than using methadone, right? And not that I'm against methadone. That's the problem with opioids is nothing compares to their pain-killing abilities, right? That's why we use them in our doctors and hospitals to prescribe them because they work, but there is a million different treatments out there, and I hope somebody finds whatever fits you, I guess, right? Right. And we're pretty close to our time limit here, so I want to kind of wrap it up. But do you guys have any other closing comments or words?
I do. I actually, every year, and this year it's our 4th annual recovery walk, and it's on the 15th of September at 11 a.m. and we're all meeting behind the TD Bank of Bennington. And we're gonna walk and we're gonna wear pin. We're trying to get permission from the families of the people that have overdosed and passed away with pins of their faces and like a little saying of the things that they did, like not about the drug addiction, but like the things that they've done and achieved in their life.
Who they actually
were, who they are. And then after we do the recovery walk, we're going to the Mercenary Street and we're gonna have food, and there's going to be speakers, and it's going to be great.
Right. This is an annual thing you guys do.
Yeah,
right?
This one's the 4th annual. We do recovery picnics. We try to do a bunch of events so it gives people something to do.
Gotcha. And I see that all the time out at Turning Point. That's Turning Point, Main Street, and Bennington. You have a number of programs and activities along with the meetings and everything else. Julia, you got anything to say?
I just thank you for being here, and I hope that you know, if somebody has a problem or they have any questions, that they contact us at Turning Point.
Awesome.
And our number is 802-442-9700.
Okay, 802-442-9700. If you have a loved one or you're having trouble with addiction, please give Turning Point a call. And thank you, ladies, very much for coming down. And all the great work you do. Thanks for tuning in. You guys got a concern? Come on in, The Concerned Citizen. I'm Kevin Hoyt. Tell me all about it. Thanks.